The elevator doors slid shut with a soft, final chime, sealing off the lobby's hum behind me. I stood there, two steaming coffees in hand, one black, no sugar, the other with a dash of cream, watching the floor numbers climb like a countdown to something inevitable. My reflection stared back from the polished steel walls, plain navy blazer. Hair pulled into a neat ponytail. No flashy jewelry. Just the kind of unassuming look that lets you fade into the background of a bustling New York high-rise. But today, that background was about to become the foreground. I'd been waiting for this moment. Not with fireworks or fanfare, but with the quiet patience of someone who's learned that real power doesn't announce itself, it just arrives. Down in the lobby, I'd seen him coming. Ethan Hargrove, Senior Director of Sales. The guy who strode through life like he owned every square inch of it. He was barking into his phone. Ty Askew. Briefcase swinging like a weapon. Hold that damn elevator. His voice cut through the morning rush, laced with that entitled edge that made interns scatter and colleagues grit their teeth. I didn't turn, didn't press the button to reopen the doors. Just sipped my own coffee, room temperature, black, and let the mechanism do its job. I could hear his footsteps pounding closer, the frustrated huff as he realized he was too late. By the time the car hit floor 5, I imagined him jabbing the call button repeatedly, cursing under his breath, maybe even debating the stairs. 28 floors. Good luck with that. The boardroom on the top floor was already buzzing softly when I stepped out. Sunlight filtered through floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Hudson, casting long shadows across the mahogany table. Catherine Ellis, our CEO, was at the head, flipping through a stack of reports with that focused intensity she always had. I placed her coffee beside her without a word, took my seat to her right, and folded my hands. The other executives nodded politely, some with faint smiles, others too buried in their agendas to notice. No one questioned my presence. Why would they? I'd been the quiet fixer for years, the one who patched up deals gone south, audited the chaos, and vanished before anyone could pin a title on me. Then the door burst open like a thunderclap. In stumbled Ethan, sweat beading on his forehead, shirt clinging to his chest, breathing like he'd just run a marathon in loafers. His eyes locked on me immediately, wild and accusing. Fire that intern or whoever the hell she is, he gasped, pointing a shaky finger in my direction. She slammed the door in my face down there. Who does she think she is? The room went deathly quiet. You could feel the air thicken. Every breath held as if the whole scene might shatter if someone exhaled too loudly. Catherine didn't flinch. She just set down her pen, her expression as calm as a still pond. The finance VP across the table adjusted his glasses, suppressing what might have been a smirk. And me? I didn't move. Just let the moment hang there. Heavy and electric. Ethan straightened up, trying to regain some composure, but his face was flushing deeper red by the second. He scanned the room, expecting nods of agreement, maybe a chorus of support from the yes men he'd cultivated over the years. But nothing came. Just silence, thick and unyielding. Finally, Catherine spoke, her voice steady, measured. "Ethan," she said, sliding a sleek black folder across the table toward him. "Take a seat. There's something you need to see." He hesitated, confusion flickering in his eyes. But he dropped into the nearest chair, still glaring at me like I was the root of all his problems. He flipped open the folder, and I watched the color drain from his face as he read. It started 3 years ago, back when the company's big push into the West Coast market had imploded spectacularly. A botched merger with a Silicon Valley startup left us drowning in lawsuits, lost clients, and a stock price that tanked overnight. Ethan had been the architect of that disaster. All swagger and big promises, But when the dust settled, he walked away unscathed, blaming market volatility in his reports.
Me?
I was brought in as a freelance consultant, temporary. No frills, just a laptop and access to the mess. I sifted through the wreckage, tangled contracts, overlooked liabilities, executives quietly offloading shares to cut their losses. That's when I saw the opportunity, hidden in plain sight like a vein of gold in a forgotten mine. I didn't make a scene, didn't pitch wild ideas in meetings or network at cocktail hours. Instead, I set up a holding company, Evergreen Capital, registered in Delaware. Layers of anonymity to keep it off radars. I bought shares piecemeal, a percent here from a retiring board member, another from a hedge fund dumping assets before tax season. Never more than a whisper at a time, always under the radar. I funded it with my savings, side gigs, and a small inheritance I'd never touched. By year 1, I had 18%. Year 2, 29%. I kept consulting, fixing Ethan's messes, the overpromised deals, the client churn he ignored, while quietly building my stake. No one noticed because no one looks twice at the contractor with a notepad. Crossing 51% felt surreal, like finishing a marathon in the dead of night with no crowd cheering. It happened over Thanksgiving weekend, the final shares transferring from a distracted institutional investor more focused on holiday bonuses than filings. I submitted the ownership change quietly, through back channels. No press release. No fanfare. Just a footnote in the quarterly report, buried under revenue projections. And the proxy votes? Secured via emails to key holders. All aligned because my track record spoke louder than any speech. I'd saved the money, stabilized ops, proven I could steer without drama. By the time the new year rolled around, I controlled the board without ever raising my voice. Back in the boardroom, Ethan's hands trembled as he turned the pages. The ledger was there, clear as day, my name, my holding company, 51.4%. The proxy authorizations followed, signed and notarized. His eyes darted up to Catherine, then to me, disbelief twisting into something sharper, anger, maybe fear. This can't be real, he stammered. She's just a consultant. What the hell is going on? Catherine leaned back, her coffee untouched. She's the majority owner now. Ethan. Effective as of last week. The words landed like a gavel. Final and irrevocable. He looked around the table again, pleading for an ally. But the room stayed silent. They'd all received the packet over the break, reviewed it, acknowledged the shift. No surprises for them. Just for him. The vote came next. Swift and merciless. Catherine called it, motion to relieve Ethan Hargrove of his duties. Effective immediately. Per the new majority directive. Hands rose one by one. Unanimous. No debate. No second chances. Ethan's world crumbled in under 5 minutes. He didn't yell. Didn't fight back. Just sat there. Deflated. Staring at the folder like it had betrayed him. But it wasn't the paper. It was his own blindness. His assumption that power was about volume and visibility, not quiet accumulation. As security escorted him out, politely. No drama. I felt no rush of vengeance. Just a quiet satisfaction, the kind that comes from turning invisibility into invincibility. In the days that followed, the office hummed with a new energy, like a storm had passed and left the air clearer. Whispers rippled through the cubicles. Did you hear about Ethan? The elevator incident became legend overnight, retold in break rooms with hushed laughter and wide eyes. But I didn't fuel the gossip. I stayed in my modest corner office, yes. I'd claimed one now, though it was nothing flashy. Just a desk with a view of the city skyline and a plant that actually got watered. My first moves as majority owner weren't about grand overhauls or flashy announcements. They were surgical, aimed at healing the wounds Ethan had left behind. First, the sales team. Under Ethan, it had been a pressure cooker. Quotas jacked up unrealistically. Bonuses dangled like carrots on fraying strings. Morale was in the gutter. Turnover sky-high. I reviewed the metrics myself, nights poring over spreadsheets, cross-referencing client feedback that had been ignored for years. Then, I authorized a reset. Realistic targets. Performance incentives tied to team success. Not just individual closings. I promoted Sarah Klein from inside the ranks, a sharp, no-nonsense rep who'd been overlooked because she didn't schmooze at golf outings. She took the director role with a quiet nod of thanks, and within weeks, the team's numbers started climbing. Not from fear, but from actual motivation. Next came the suppliers. Ethan's aggressive negotiations had burned bridges left and right, delayed payments, squeezed margins, all to pad his quarterly reports. One vendor, a family-run logistics firm in Chicago, had nearly gone under because of it. I called them personally, apologized without excuses, reinstated fair terms, and cleared the backlog with interest. We're building partnerships, not conquests, I told them. Word spread. Other suppliers reached out, tentative at first, then eager. Deals flowed smoother. Costs stabilized. It wasn't rocket science, it was basic decency, the kind Ethan had dismissed as soft. But the real shift happened in the culture. No more all-hands meetings where Ethan monologued for hours, interrupting anyone who dared question his vision. We switched to collaborative sessions, shorter, focused, with input from all levels. I encouraged anonymous feedback channels, and the floodgates opened. Ideas on efficiency, complaints about outdated software, even suggestions for better work-life balance. We implemented paid mental health days, flexible hours for parents. Small things, but they added up. People stopped dreading Mondays. Laughter echoed in the halls again, genuine this time, not the forced kind at company happy hours. Of course, Ethan didn't vanish quietly. Rumors trickled in. He'd landed a consulting gig at a smaller firm downtown, pitching himself as a turnaround expert. I imagined him in those meetings, still barking orders, still assuming his bluster would carry the day. But New York talks, and the story of his downfall had made the rounds in industry circles. Recruiters whispered about it over coffee. LinkedIn posts alluded to elevator karma without naming names. He tried to spin it, posting vague updates about new chapters and resilience, but the likes were sparse, the comments polite at best. One afternoon, about a month later, I ran into him literally in the lobby of our building. He was there for a meeting with a tenant on a lower floor, looking gaunt, his suit hanging a bit loose. Our eyes met as I waited for the elevator. No words at first, just that awkward pause where history hangs unspoken. He cleared his throat. "Hey," he muttered, shifting his briefcase. "Heard you're running things now." I nodded, keeping it neutral. Something like that. The doors opened, and we stepped in together. Silence stretched as the car ascended. I could feel his tension, the unspoken questions bubbling under the surface. Finally, he spoke, voice lower than I'd ever heard it. "Look, about that day. I didn't know. I mean, who could have? It wasn't an apology. Not really. But it was close enough for someone like him. I didn't lash out. Didn't rub it in. We all make assumptions," I said softly, watching the numbers tick up. "The trick is learning from them." He nodded, staring at his shoes. When the doors opened on my floor, I stepped out, leaving him to ride alone. No dramatic exit. No final jab. Just a quiet lesson delivered in the same space where it all began. That encounter lingered with me, not as triumph, but as a reminder. Power isn't about crushing egos, it's about lifting the ones worth saving. As the company stabilized, I turned my focus inward. The board had always been a boys' club, stale ideas, echo chambers. I diversified it quietly, added a tech expert from Seattle, a sustainability specialist from Boston. Meetings became dynamic, debates healthy. We pivoted strategies, invested in green logistics, expanded remote work options. Profits climbed, but so did employee satisfaction scores. It felt like breathing life back into something that had been suffocating under Ethan's thumb. Yet, nights alone in my apartment, overlooking the twinkling city, doubts crept in. Had I become what I despised, the quiet accumulator, pulling strings from the shadows? I stared at the shareholder ledger on my screen, my name etched in digital ink. Power changes you, even if you wield it softly. Was this revenge? Or justice? The line blurred sometimes, leaving me with a hollow ache. But then I'd think of the team, the ones who'd been invisible like me, and the doubt faded. This wasn't about me anymore. It was about building something better, one held door at a time. Spring brought renewal to the city, cherry blossoms in Central Park, longer days that stretched the office shadows thinner. But in our building, the change was deeper, woven into the daily rhythm. Mornings no longer carried that undercurrent of dread. Instead, there was purpose, a quiet hum of productivity without the old toxicity. I'd instituted open hours, times when anyone could drop by my office. No appointment needed. At first, it was slow, a hesitant knock from a junior analyst, a quick question about benefits. Then it snowballed. Stories poured out, ideas suppressed, frustrations buried. I listened, really listened, and acted where I could. One such visitor was Marcus, a mid-level manager who'd survived Ethan's reign by keeping his head down. He sat across from me, fidgeting with his tie. I almost quit last year, he admitted.
Ethan.
He made it feel like a battlefield. I nodded, remembering my own early days. The subtle slights that piled up like unpaid bills. We're changing that, I said. What do you need to make this place better? He suggested cross-training programs, ways to break down silos. We rolled them out the next quarter, and retention rates soared. It wasn't magic, it was empathy, the currency Ethan had never valued. Externally, the industry took notice. Competitors poached less aggressively, clients renewed contracts with enthusiasm. At a conference in Chicago, I overheard whispers that firms turned around, new leaderships got vision. I smiled inwardly, staying anonymous in the crowd. No spotlight for me. Let the results speak.
But Ethan?
His name cropped up too, in cautionary tales. He'd bounced to another gig, but it fizzled fast. Word was, his style clashed with a more collaborative culture. Last I heard, he was freelancing, cold calling old contacts. Part of me pitted him. Arrogance is a lonely armor when it cracks. Then came the audit, a routine SEC review that uncovered discrepancies from Ethan's era. Nothing criminal, but sloppy, inflated projections, hidden fees. The board tensed, but I steered us through calmly, cooperating fully. Fines were minimal, lessons learned. It reinforced my approach, transparency over bluster. We emerged stronger, with tighter controls and a reputation for integrity. Personal life crept in too. I neglected it during the climb, dinners alone, weekends buried in filings.
Now,
with stability, I reconnected, coffee with old friends, a tentative date with a guy from my building. He asked about work, I kept it vague. Consulting, I said. Some secrets stay mine. But the power weighed heavier some nights. A crown of thorns. Had I manipulated too much? The moral gray lingered. A quiet echo in empty elevators. By summer, growth accelerated. We acquired a small AI firm for predictive analytics, streamlining operations. Employees got equity shares, small stakes, but meaningful. Own a piece, I told them. We're in this together. Cheers erupted in the all hands. It felt real, not scripted. Reflecting on Ethan, I wondered if he'd learned. Probably not fully, change is hard. But in that elevator silence, seeds might have planted. Power's true test isn't acquisition, it's how you hold it without losing yourself. As fall painted the city in oranges and golds, the company hit milestones we'd only dreamed of under Ethan. Revenue up 22%. Employee NPS at record highs. We sponsored community programs, mentorship for underrepresented youth in business, echoing my own overlooked start. It felt full circle, giving back what I'd clawed for. Challenges arose, a supply chain snag from global tariffs. Ethan would have panicked. Staff. We adapted, diversified vendors, invested in domestic options. Team input was key. A warehouse lead's ideas saved millions. Collaboration thrived where ego once stifled. Ethan resurfaced indirectly. A LinkedIn article he penned, lessons from leadership setbacks. Vague allusions to unexpected shifts, advice on humility. Comments were mixed, some supportive, others skeptical. I didn't engage. Let him rebuild. Grudges serve no one. Internally, I faced my own reckoning. A board member questioned my low profile. Why not go public with your role? I paused. Visibility invites scrutiny.
Targets.
Results over recognition, I replied. But privately, isolation gnawed. Power solitude is its price. A pivotal moment, promoting from within again. Lila, a data analyst, pitched a bold expansion. Ethan would have dismissed her. We greenlit it. Success followed. Her gratitude? A simple note. Thanks for seeing me. That fueled me more than any share price. Winter loomed. Holidays approaching. I planned bonuses, generous. Earned. No freezes like Ethan's Scrooge tactics. The office party was low-key. Laughter genuine. As I left, elevator descending, I reflected, from invisible to indispensable. But the core question haunted, does power corrupt or reveal? The new year dawned crisp. The city blanketed in snow that muffled the usual chaos. Our building stood tall, a beacon of quiet transformation. I'd solidified my role, not as a flashy CEO, but as the steady hand guiding from within. Catherine remained the public face. I preferred the shadows, where real work happened. Ethan's story faded to anecdote. A reminder in onboarding. Treat everyone with respect. You never know. He pivoted to coaching. Per industry buzz. Perhaps growth. Perhaps survival. Either way, his fall had rippled positively. We expanded westward successfully this time. Lessons from the past heeded. Innovation flourished. Employee-led R&D yielded patents. Pride swelled. This was legacy. Yet, in quiet moments, ethics tugged. My ascent was calculated. Ethical legally. But manipulative? The underdog's victory blurs lines. Did ends justify means? I pondered in elevators, where it began. Ultimately, the company thrived not on dominance, but equity. As I held doors for strangers, I wondered, in a world of overlooked voices, who else waits to rise? The question lingers. A moral whisper in corporate corridors.